Trucker Dump for September 8th, 2016, episode 116, Truckers and Diabetes.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Hey everybody, what's shaking? Todd McCann here. Just thought I'd better tell you that in case you're strapped up to a chair somewhere in a prison in Iran and they're using my podcast for torture method. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, thought I better tell you who I am. Hey, how's it going, guys? Hope everything's going good. Me? Well, I didn't get home this past weekend. I was supposed to, but I didn't. And that so rarely happens. I just didn't get upset about it, believe it or not. It's just one of those things that happens no matter how good your company is, no matter how much experience you've had. Something like this is always going to happen every now and then. You just have to expect it is, deal with it. So anyway, I just decided, well, they actually were going to get me home, but by the time they got me home, it was going to be Sunday night, and I was only going to get less than 24 hours off. So I was like, screw this. I'll just, call up the evil overlord. We'll go have dinner, and then I'll take off, and that way they can't count it as my home time, which they won't, and they'll get me back home this weekend. Hopefully. We'll see. And if that wasn't bad enough, guess what? I got chiggers. Oh. Well, it's either that or cooties. I'm not sure. Do cooties itch? Yeah, I never can keep them straight. I got chiggers all over my ankles, which is weird because I don't spend a lot of time in grassy areas, but hey, I got them. I don't know how I got them. I did do a walk around one time, and there was some grass back there, but I didn't think it was that tall, but I guess it was. Oh, well, anyway. What else is going on? Let's see. Oh, something really cool happened not too long ago. I got to meet up with Buck from the Trucking Podcast. He is living in Green Bay now, and I happened to be there. I didn't have a load going out that day, and he happened to be there and was available. So he's actually working 4 days a week on the road now. He's always been home before, but he just switched jobs. So now he's out for about 4 days and back, and I just happened to catch him on a Monday, which was great. We met up at the Country Express truck stop in Green Bay, which is a complete crap hole. It's so weird. I read the reviews on Trucker Path, and it's so weird. It says that the place is a crap hole, but the restaurant is awesome. And I was like, okay, well, we'll see how that goes, Well, I walk into the convenience store side, and it is a crap hole. The bathroom was nasty. The convenience store was nasty. There are no showers, not that I saw anyway. From the reviews, I think some truckers were complaining that there weren't any showers, and just a complete crap hole. But then I'm going over to the restaurant, to meet Buck later on. I was going to have some breakfast. It was evening, but I wanted some Brenner, so I wanted to go in there, and I walked in. It was like a totally different place. It was like walls were all nice, seats were all nice, everything was nice and clean, and it's just like stepping at, like I'm in the Twilight Zone or something. I go over. I got a really nice waitress. She seemed to be new. She seemed a little bit overwhelmed. I think she was the only one there too, but she finally got me my order, and I got to tell you, it was great. I had a breakfast skillet type thing with pancakes, and man, it was really good. I would highly recommend the Country Express restaurant. Yeah, I can't remember the little highway it's on. It's just south of Green Bay, though. It's pretty much the only truck stop in Green Bay, so it shouldn't be hard to find. Anyway, Buck and I got together, got to talking. We had such a great time just chatting about stuff. We have a lot in common because we both do podcasts. We're both trying to get our trucker audiences engaged, and we both have problems with that. Of course, everybody who does a podcast has a problem with engagement, getting people to actually, write in, talk to you. People listen, but they just don't get involved a lot, and that's sad for us. We like that. Of course, I can't really say that because I'm so far behind on feedback, but It's not because I get so much feedback. It's just because I put out so few podcasts that I'm always caught up, or I'm never caught up. But anyway, like I said, Buck and I had a great time. We had a lot of laughs. He is just exactly like he is. You would think he is if you listen to his podcast. He's just a hoot, good times. We just had a blast. If you haven't checked out his podcast, he does it with his son, who is Don the beer guy. It's called The Trucking Podcast, which is absolutely the best name to have if you're going to have a trucking podcast. Believe me, it comes right up to the top, whereas if you have trucker in your name, like Trucker Dump, it's way down on the list. Either that or my podcast just sucks, and so it's way down on the list. Either way. He's got the best name. But they just have a hoot over there. They talk a lot about trucking issues, but they also talk about stuff just that guys in general are interested in. Gearhead type stuff and just funny stories that they find on the web. They just talk about all kinds of stuff, and it just moves all over the place, and it's just a lot of laughs. If you are ever alone on the road, just download this podcast and it'll make you feel like you're right part of the conversation. As a matter of fact, you'll probably end up talking out loud, telling them that they're idiots at some point, or agreeing with them about something. Either way, it's a fun thing. Check them out at the the podcast is truckingpodcast.com is the URL there. Or you could just make it easy on yourself and click the link in the show notes. Anyway, Buck, I hope we get to meet up again. I wish I could have met Don, but they're living in different areas now. I rarely get to Green Bay or Rice Lake, which is where Don is from, and I don't know, just weird that I was in Green Bay at all. So probably never meet him again, but it was fun anyway. Now, this next thing just barely made it into the podcast, which is a good thing because it's about driver appreciation, and that's the week of September 11th through the, 17th. And as you well know, with me putting out a podcast only once a month, this would have been too late. But I just got this email. Every trucker knows the name Road Pro. I mean, they sell so much stuff for truckers, little fans, the little cooking devices, all kinds of stuff you see in the truck stops. Well, for National Truck Driver Appreciation Week, they're holding a contest. It's basically, you can just sign up at this website. It's facebook.com/roadprobrands. There will be a link to that in the show notes. And they are doing a giveaway. They're giving stuff every day in September, not just through the 11th through the 17th. So that's pretty cool. They have daily prizes, including products with brands from SiriusXM, GlobeTech, Garmin, Howes, or is it Hose? No, it's not Hose. It'd be awful to have a name Hose. Bram, I'm on it. What's your brand name? Hose. No, that'd be bad. Okay. Also, FBPF, Plantronics, and Tough Tested. Just like I said, go to their Facebook page and sign up. Also, they will be they'll be handing out Road Pro ball caps if they see truckers. So just walk up to them. They got some pretty sharp looking hats here. So sign up for this. Maybe you'll win something. And if you do, send it to me. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want your crap. I want your money. I don't want your crap. Wait, that sounds bad too, because that would imply that Road Pro has crap. That's not the case either. Just ignore me entirely, please. Okay, here's something. I got a request to review a product, and I can't do it. So I'm looking for some help. What I need is an owner-operator. What these are is, you've probably seen them before. It's those little arrow-looking things that you put on your lug nuts, and it will tell you if they're out of if a lug nut's coming loose. And I can't put that kind of thing on my company tractor, so I need somebody to that owns their own truck or leases it or whatever, and would be willing to do a review on it. Just a short audio review, something maybe 3 minutes or something like that. I don't think you could honestly make a whole podcast out of that kind of a review. But looking for somebody who'd be willing to do that. I'm thinking I could probably have them ship it to you instead of me. I just can't do it. I'd like to do it, but I just can't. So if you're interested in that, drop me a line at truckerdump@gmail.com and just, I don't know, put wheel thingy review in the subject or something like that, so I'll know what it is. All right, next up, I got an email from Warren, who said he was having problems downloading the Walking on Einstein songs. In case you all didn't know, at About Truck Driving, if you go to About Truck Driving, I'm talking like an idiot today, abouttruckdriving.com, and go to the free stuff link. There's some different PDFs you can download, and there's also the intro and outro songs in full that you can download for free. He was telling me, well, I can't download those for free because the links don't work. Well, sure enough, you can listen to it on the website, which is weird. You know, from my website, you can just click on it and listen to it, but you couldn't download it. Well, I fixed that, or at least I hope I fixed it. Anyway, so if you would ever try to download those links or those songs and couldn't before, hopefully you can now. And if you can't, send me an email and I'll get back to you like I did Warren. Of course, like always, I took forever to respond to him. But anyway, he was gracious about it. And I appreciate anybody who tells me if there's something wrong with the website and I don't see it. Because honestly, I don't get on my own website and rummage around and check for broken stuff. I kind of leave that up to you guys. What is next? Hey, well, one thing, I haven't mentioned Trucker Magazine that I write for. Well, it's because I don't write for them anymore. Apparently, somebody saw the website, wanted to buy them, and bought them. And they no longer needed my services. I thought, well, gosh, am I that bad? Am I that horrible? Maybe they don't want me anymore. But no, it looks like it's one of those things where they just bought the website and they're just not going to do anything with it. Maybe they're just trying to eliminate competition. I don't really know. I don't understand business like that. But anyway, the Trucker Magazine thing is no longer, which is sad because that was a paying gig and I really enjoyed writing for them. It was short form stuff, and I'm kind of looking for something like that to do for somebody else. So if anybody has any ideas, Trucker Bob from iTruckers group, Slack group, knows somebody and is trying to set something up, and we're working on that, but it hadn't happened yet. So anyway, I guess I might as well mention the iTrucker since I mentioned Trucker Bob. If you're a Mac user, Apple lover, love to talk about your Apple stuff, come and join us over there at the iTrucker Slack group. Just download the free app. It's called Slack. It's available on all Windows phone. You get it on your Windows computer. I mean, it's completely cross-platform. But this is just for people our group is just for people who love Apple and all that kind of stuff, your iPhones and iPods and all that kind of crap. So if you want an invite to that, like I say, just download that app and send an invite to itruckers@icloud.com. We're having a blast over there. And we don't just talk about just Apple stuff. If you're just a trucker who likes Apple stuff but just wants somebody to talk to, come on over and join the crowd. Okay, now for a little self-promotion. Gee, never guessed that was coming, did you? Truckernews.com wrote up an article called Podcasts May Be the Perfect On-the-Road Entertainment Option. And you know what? They're right. But what amazed me is they actually included me in their list they included Trucker Dump anyway, in the list of good things to listen to, which I thought was pretty darn awesome. So I appreciate that, truckernews.com. And there is a link in the show notes if you want to go check out that article and see some of the other podcasts that they recommend, which some of them I actually listen to and love. On the subject of podcasts, I had a Twitter follower a long time ago. I don't remember who you are, and the very nature of Twitter, there's no way I'm going to be able to track you down. So sorry for not remembering your name. But they asked me if I was ever going to put the podcast on the Google Play Store. Well, I remember trying to do it a long time ago and just couldn't figure out how. And quite honestly, it's still completely screwed up. If you don't have the exact link, you almost can't find it. but I did manage to put the podcast up on Google Play, so it is there now. There is a link in the show notes if you want to subscribe that way. It did take me a while to get it up there. I mean, once I decided to put it up again and tried it again, it went up fairly quickly, but it still just amazes me. They hide the podcasts in the music section, and it's still hard to find once you're in the music section of Google Play. It's just bonkers to me. It's so hard to figure out. But anyway, there's the link in the show notes if you're interested. You could try to go to Google Play and search for it if you want, but good luck. All right, there's a quick story I saw in the news that I thought I read it wrong, and so I had to go back and read it again. Maybe you saw this, maybe you didn't. Anyway, Love's, the truck stop, they have a company that delivers fuel for them. It's actually, it's not the same company. It's kind of a sister company. I'm not sure of the relationship there, but they're called Gemini Motor Transport, and they have this program. I'm having a hard time talking because of the very nature of this. They have this program called Gemini Safe Driver Credits. It's a 5-year program, and basically it's an incentive for their drivers to be safe, not get tickets, not have fuel spills and stuff. When they get inspections, that the inspections come back clean and all that kind of stuff. And if you are good for 5 years, you're eligible for an extra safety bonus on top of what they normally make. This sucker came out to $3.4 million, and it was split between just about 130 drivers. But when I saw this number, this is what really got me. $15,000 to $30,000 each is what they got. Now, granted, that's for a 5-year period, but now they get to do that again, and if they're good for the next 5 years, they get another $15,000 to $30,000, and they base that on how long they've worked there and how many miles they've driven in the past year, and basically their pay over the last year. But anyway, I thought, what a great safety program. I mean, they get the normal yearly thing too, which is cool. We all pretty much, I think every trucking company pretty much gives a safety bonus, if you're good, which I have an upcoming podcast about that. Anyway, tease. Anyway, I just thought it was really cool because, I mean, this is long term. These guys have really got to be careful, and what how motivated would these guys be if they got a $30,000 check? How motivated would they be to be safe for the next 5 years? Talk about being completely cautious. That would be, man, I know I'd be a lot more cautious than I am today. So, my company, you know who you are. Start implementing something like this. It would be awesome. Although I did get a new safety bonus pay raise in my last thing, so that was cool. Thank God, because I wouldn't have got one at all this year if it didn't. Tease. All right, more self-promotion. Hey, I got a review of the book. I got a couple more reviews. Everything I've gotten on Amazon is 5 stars, so it's not just me. I don't know most of these people. I know a couple of them, but the other ones are just people who have just found the book on Amazon. Christy, a girl named Christy, wrote me. She found the book. Now, I actually wrote her back and said, how did you find the book? Are you a podcast listener, or did you go to the blog, or what? And she said, no, I just searching on Amazon. I saw that your book looked long enough to be informative. And she goes, and then I checked out some of the samples, and I thought you were really funny. And she goes, so I bought it. And she was like, where's your second book that you mentioned in the first book? And I'm like, well, sorry, it ain't out yet. I actually sent her an advance copy of it just so she'd have it, because her husband is just getting out of trucking school, and I thought he could use the second book, which is How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job. Come to find out, he actually already has a job. He got a job with Crete, so that was cool, and he didn't even need the book. But, if he ever wants to go someplace else, he'll be able to look at that and hopefully know some good questions to ask the company. Anyway, just want to take a second and just mention, I don't do this very often. I I might mention it in passing, like in my final closing thing. And quite honestly, I think most people, by the time that final music stops or starts, they probably just shut the podcast off. I do that a lot on my podcasts I listen to. And, I always try to include a little something unique in that so people don't, so they'll listen to the end, so they can hear my nephew Jake say his little Todd doesn't know what he's doing thing. And, but anyway, I just wanted to mention that I'd really appreciate any iTunes reviews. I don't get very much of those still. I appreciate any Amazon review for the book. iTunes reviews are always going to help, though, and I still don't rank very high in iTunes. I don't know if that's because the name, like I was mentioning before, is Trucker instead of Trucking, but that's, that ship has sailed. I can't change that name anyway. I like Trucker Dump anyway. It kind of suits the bathroom humor style that I do here, so I'm not changing that. So anyway, I thank Christy for buying the book, and I thank her for writing me and telling me about it. It really makes me feel great when somebody writes in. But, I've gushed on long enough. Maybe I should just let Steven gush on for a second.
Hello, fellow trucker dumpers. It's my favorite time of the year when the biannual podcast gets released. Hey, Mr. Sweatpants is now a fancy pants author. My first thought was, how good can it be? Will Todd release one chapter a year until the book is completed? Has Todd ever got revenge with a garage door? No, I have to admit, I didn't read the book, so I'm glad there is an audio version. The audiobook by itself has great value just based off how much you pay per listening hour. The book itself is like a truck. It's slow to start, but soon, takes off with great personal stories. I wish this book was out when I first started driving a truck because I have fallen into some of the same mistakes that Todd talks about in his book. This book has great tips and advice that go more than just trucking. In most of the lessons you learn in this book, you can easily replace trucking with life and it will still make sense. Keep up the good work. This is Steven from PA and not from West Virginia. Thank you.
Well, hey, Steven, thanks for sending in that comment about the book. You guys might remember Steven. He was the only co-host I've ever had, actually, on Trucker Dump 111. That was about improving our reputation as truckers. He did an excellent job filling in. He actually got to meet me in person, come to my truck, so that was cool. It was nice to meet him and sit down with him and chat about improving our reputation. God knows we need that. But anyway, thanks for sending that audio comment there, Steven. He also wrote a review on Amazon, so that was cool of him. And for those of you out there who have sent in feedback before and are thinking, hey, my feedback comment is way older than Steven's. You know what? That's true. But he reviewed my book, and my book makes me money. I'm just saying, it might jump you right up to the top of the list. Yes, I am just that shallow. Okay, stay tuned, because later on we are going to hear in the feedback section from, believe it or not, Long Duck, David, and Bryce. Gee, weren't they the same three we heard from last time? Why? Yes, they were. But these are different these are different comments, and Bryce actually includes an audio comment this time. And we're also going to hear from Andrew, if we have time. I think we will, Andrew. Oh, by the way...
What's happening, hot stuff?
Heh, you thought I forgot, didn't you, sucker? Anyway, all right, on with the main portion of this podcast. I wrote up a little intro for the blog post, so here goes. Today's guest post, which is called Commercial Truck Driving and Diabetes, Everything You Need to Know, comes from Elizabeth Weaver over at the Diabetes Council. There's a link in the show notes to that. Now, before I go on, I'd like to encourage you to listen to this podcast even if you don't have diabetes. One thing I learned from the article is that being a trucker with diabetes seems like it'd be about as much fun as having your head gnawed off by a grizzly bear. So maybe hearing it will make you think twice before you have yet another breakfast consisting of ding-dongs and Mountain Dew. I'm just saying. Clearly, it's better not to get diabetes in the first place. So back to Elizabeth and the article. Now, according to her bio, she's a certified diabetes educator, she loves to write, and she considers writing to be a perfect part-time job. She's dedicated to helping people with diabetes. She has a loving husband, a son of 17 years, and a daughter that's 19 years old, and she lives in Pender County, North Carolina, near the Intracoastal Waterway. Now, this all got started because Elizabeth emailed me to ask if I would help promote the article by tweeting it to my Twitter followers and putting a link to it on abouttruckdriving.com. Well, I enjoyed the article so much that I thought it deserved more than that. Now, this is where I usually lose potential guest bloggers. I wrote Elizabeth back and told her I'd be happy to give her a whole blog post if she'd just considered recording an audio version for the podcast. And normally this is where I can actually hear people screaming bloody murder as they run into the forest. But surprisingly, she was up for it, providing that I'd allow her coworker, Holly Kim, to record it for her. Fine by me. Anything that relieves you of my whiny voice for a while is awesome. Well, I have to tell you, Elizabeth crammed this article chock full of useful information about truckers, or potential truckers, who are dealing with diabetes out here on the road. I can't help but think this article will be even more useful as time rolls on and the DOT and the FMCSA overlords tighten their noose on the health requirements for truck drivers. And as far as the audio presentation goes, well, Holly knocked it out of the frickin' park with her reading and the sound quality. I didn't even have to edit anything. So either Holly's a flawless reader with a wonderfully clear speaking voice, in which I hate her frickin' guts out of pure envy, or she's an editing guru. Dunno. Perhaps it helps that she used to work at a radio station and owns a fancy pants microphone, you think? Not that I'm jealous of that microphone either. So anyway, I've said this before, but let me say it again in case you're new to the podcast. My whole goal for guest posts is to find articles covering subjects I know nothing about, which, I know this will come as a shock to you, isn't that hard to do. This article and subject matter fits that criteria perfectly. From the looks of all the truckers I see with purple legs, I'd say this content is extremely important and needs to get out there. And it also fits because I have no desire to research diabetes, because I'm lazy and stuff, you know? Anyway, let's get on with it. I've included a link to the full article in the show notes, as well as the links mentioned within the article. Enjoy. I give you Commercial Truck Driving and Diabetes, Everything You Need to Know by Elizabeth Weaver. Read for you by Holly Kim.
In this article, we will explore what it takes to get a commercial driver's license with diabetes and how to get an insulin waiver for type 1 and type 2 persons who use insulin. We will look at requirements for type 1 versus type 2 diabetes. We will look at insulin versus non-insulin users. We will look at state versus interstate CDL requirements. We will also look at the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration FMCSA Diabetes Waiver Program and how you can be evaluated to drive a commercial vehicle across state lines when you have diabetes and use insulin. Intrastate guidelines for CDL with diabetes. If you want to work in the trucking industry only within your state and you do not plan to cross any state lines, you can get approved to drive a commercial vehicle in your state. For drivers driving within state lines, you do not need to apply for the federal diabetes exemption. Likewise, you would not need to apply for the federal diabetes exemption if you do not use insulin. Whatever rules and regulations your state has for holding a CDL with diabetes is what you have to follow for your intrastate or interstate trucking. It is important to know that most commercial driving will be considered intrastate, not interstate driving, even if you do not cross state lines. If you are carrying cargo or passengers to or from another state, this is also considered an intrastate commercial driving. For information on intrastate commercial driving, check with your home state for CDL requirements and see if they are applicable to you. They vary from state to state, with each state having its own regulations. You can look up the laws governing your state by visiting the link to the Diabetes Council website in the show notes. You can type your home state in the search for laws and requirements for intrastate trucking where you live. Type 2 and no insulin. Can I get a CDL? Persons with type 2 diabetes that do not take insulin need only to follow their state guidelines related to obtaining and keeping their CDL. They will not need to file a federal diabetes exemption and can still cross state lines. However, if you find out that you are going to be on insulin, you will have to file for the federal diabetes exemption. Type 1 diabetes. Can I get a CDL? Yes, you can get a CDL, Be advised that there are certain medical criterions that you will have to meet. You will need to file for the federal diabetes exemption. We will discuss how you can file for the exemption and the requirements you must meet in detail further below. You will want to study these requirements and make sure that you meet them before getting involved in the long, drawn-out process of getting a federal diabetes exemption. History of law from 2005. As part of the Transportation Bill from 2005, a person with type 1 diabetes who takes insulin is now able to drive in interstate commerce. This has not been possible before this law, and persons taking insulin were unable to be truckers. Although there are many requirements that a person must meet, it is possible. Truckers are one of the unhealthiest segments of the population due to unhealthy habits, irregular eating schedules, long hours, and lack of exercise. Therefore, being a trucker with diabetes comes with its challenges. However, some feel that these challenges are worth the independence and opportunities that trucking the open roads of the United States provides. The FMCSA started to provide assessments of those with type 1 and type 2 diabetes taking insulin for interstate trucking on a case-by-case basis as early as 2003, provided that they met all the conditions for driving while taking insulin. The criterion is not as strict as one might think, keeping in mind that those with existing complications of diabetes or those with the A1C that is high, generally above a 10, may not be able to go through the process. The process is very long and can take up to 180 days or longer if they find that the applicant has left out information needed to make a confirmed assessment. Some sources have cited 9 months to 1 year of wait periods due to backlog of paperwork with the cumbersome process. In 2003, there was something called the 3-year rule, where persons taking insulin were being assessed for intrastate trucking to have 3 years of experience in intrastate trucking. It was very hard to get this because only certain states allowed drivers taking insulin to be employed in intrastate trucking. Also, not much trucking is really considered intrastate trucking as stated above. This restrictive rule is no longer in effect because it prevented almost everyone from obtaining an exemption. Let's explore the requirements for this in-depth and time-consuming process that truckers taking insulin must go through to get moving. Obtaining an FMCSA diabetes waiver. First, you can print the 12-page Federal Diabetes Exemption Program packet by visiting the link to the Diabetes Council website in the show notes. Jumping through federal hoops. What's next? For starters, an applicant for the federal diabetes exemption or waiver with type 1 diabetes will need to be taking their insulin for at least 2 months prior to applying for the exemption. A person with type 2 diabetes must have been taking their insulin for 1 month. A required physician evaluation that should be conducted by a licensed medical examiner is listed on the FMCSA's National Registry. Other evaluations may include tests conducted by an endocrinologist and ophthalmologist or optometrist. In addition, the following is a list of medical criteria that must be met. The person with diabetes must not have had 1 or more hypoglycemic episodes in the past 12 months or 2 or more occurrences in the past 5 years resulting in seizures, loss of consciousness, need for assistance from another person, period of confusion. The person with diabetes must not have signs of end organ damage including retinopathy, macular degeneration, peripheral neuropathy, congestive heart failure, stroke, peripheral vascular disease, kidney failure. The diabetes package should contain diabetes exemption application, quarterly endocrinologist evaluation form for already exempt drivers, annual diabetes assessment package for already exempt drivers, medical examination requirements. The Department of Transportation, DOT, physical examination must be conducted by a licensed medical examiner listed on the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, FMCSA, National Registry. The following may provide the DOT physical examination: Doctors of Medicine, MD, Doctors of Osteopathy, DO, Physician's Assistant, PA, Advanced Practice Nurses, APN, Doctors of Chiropractic, DC. To find a medical examiner who is certified by the FMCSA to perform DOT physical exams, visit the link to the Diabetes Council website in the show notes. A DOT physical exam is valid for up to 24 months. The medical examiner may also issue a medical examiner certificate for less than 24 months when it is desirable to monitor a condition, such as diabetes or high blood pressure. The federal diabetes exemption is good for 1 year. A medical examiner certificate is issued if the medical examiner finds that the person with diabetes is physically fit to operate a commercial vehicle and the applicant is given a copy of the certificate. There are 57 screenings that a person with diabetes taking insulin injections must pass in order to obtain the federal diabetes exemption from the FMCSA. Once obtained, the federal diabetes exemption is good for 1 year, although some medical exemptions may be good for 24 months. At the end of 1 year, if the person does not meet the criteria on reapplication, they are then not allowed to operate a commercial vehicle for interstate trucking. As one's diabetes worsens, or as short and long-term complications arise, a trucker with diabetes taking insulin may find that they are unable to continue on their current career path. If they are unable to meet the requirements for exemption each year, they may be faced with the reality of being pulled off the road due to worsened diabetes. This can cause hardship for a trucker and their family, who may not have other means of sustaining their livelihood. As of 2004, the DOT medical examinations that are administered to those obtaining a CDL for interstate trucking have become stricter. This is because a number of prior unmentioned medical conditions were added to the list of that could render a driver unsafe to be on the road. High blood pressure, sleep apnea, and of course, diabetes were on the list. Persons with diabetes who wish to enter the trucking industry should ask themselves if they would be able to manage their disease with all of the challenges that comes with it while on the road. They should also prepare themselves for a possibility of being taken off the road due to worsening diabetes and acute or chronic complications that make driving a commercial vehicle unsafe. With organization and planning, life on the road as a diabetic taking insulin is possible. In the event if or when truckers are taken off the road, they are put on the FMLA. The Family Medical Leave Act protects them from losing their job for 12 weeks. However, because the federal diabetic exemption takes up to 180 days, some truckers would have lost their jobs in the time between when their FMLA runs out and the time when they obtain their waiver. It may be possible to seek help from the American Diabetes Association related to discrimination cases if the jobs are lost while waiting on the federal diabetes exemption. A trucker's fear of insulin. Recently, a trucker named Jason came to me for diabetes education. Jason is a 54-year-old type 2 on 3 different oral medications that are all maxed out. He wanted to talk to educators about lifestyle changes that he could make to avoid getting put on insulin injections. He confessed that it was tough to drive a rig when you have to take insulin. He said the process was hard and he knew others who could not make it through. However, he did not want to lose his income. Because he was at the maximum with his oral medications, his doctor was pushing for the next step. Jason was clearly trying to avoid insulin because he was a truck driver. After going on an intensive diet and exercise regimen, he was able to get his A1C down to a 9.8. Still, he is looking at his diabetes worsening due to having type 2 for 12 years. As his beta cells die out over time and there is a worsening of his condition, he will likely not be able to stay on the interstate roads for much longer. Are many truck drivers afraid to take insulin for the fear of being unable to drive in interstate commerce? It seems that this may be the case, as evidenced by Jason's story. This may be the only life and career a person knows, and switching careers late in life, as we all know, can be very difficult. Hopefully, with good self-management skills being taught, diabetes educators can help in keeping Americans' dedicated trucking industry rolling and help keep Jason and others like him keep on trucking on. While working on this piece, I found some frequently asked questions. Is it possible to drive a truck for interstate commerce if I have type 2 diabetes that does not require insulin? Yes, if you meet all the requirements for a CDL in your home state, you do not have to do anything else. You will not need to apply for the federal diabetes exemption through the FMCSA. Can I work in the interstate trucking industry if I have type 2 diabetes and I use insulin? You may be able to work in the interstate trucking industry if you meet certain requirements, but you will need to apply for the federal diabetes exemption through the FMCSA. See above under Obtaining an FMCSA Diabetes Waiver. If I have type 1 diabetes, can I work in interstate trucking? You may be able to work in the interstate trucking industry if you meet certain requirements, but you will need to apply for the federal diabetes exemption through the FMCSA. See above under Obtaining an FMCSA Diabetes Waiver. If I am a truck driver with diabetes, what can I do to better manage my diabetes on the road? You can opt for healthier options like lean meats, vegetables, and salads instead of fried food at truck stops. Keep a cooler of healthy snacks on hand and get your exercise by stopping for a 15-20 minute walk every few hours. Alternatively, you can keep up with your exercises by keeping exercise equipment in the back of the truck. You can visit this Pinterest page to read blogs about the various exercise equipment and routines for truck drivers by visiting the link to the Diabetes Council website in the show notes. We invite our readers to let us know what they think about this article. Do you have anything that you would like for us to add to this article? Do we stand corrected on any of the information that we presented in this article? We also welcome any comments or stories from our readers. Please let us know how diabetes has affected your life as a trucker. We would like to hear from you about your difficult experiences as a trucker with diabetes. We are particularly interested in stories related to how you overcame any difficulties presented by your diabetes while you are on the road. Are there any innovative methods or tricks that you do to keep self-managed while on the road that could be of help to others? Let us hear from you in the comments section below. Dan's story. A 46-year-old man with type 2 diabetes came to diabetes education classes with an A1C of 11.7. He stated that he needed help to get his diabetes under control so that he could continue to drive a commercial vehicle. Let's just call him Dan. Dan had an insulin waiver, but he was taken off the road because his A1C had increased to over 10. He had to get needed diabetes education and get his A1C down below 10 quickly or he would lose his job as an interstate trucker. Dan is very motivated due to the situation threatening his income and livelihood. He did not mind camping out in the diabetes education classroom until he learned what he needed to in order to keep his commercial driver's license and get back in the seat of the big rig. We gave Dan a big 10-4 good buddy and quickly started to tailor some educational interventions and help Dan in overcoming his recent difficulty with elevated blood sugars. We wanted to get the root of why his blood sugars were increasing. We needed to look at what we could do about his worsening diabetes to get him back behind the wheel. Copy? We did not want him flipping over on the road, greasy side up, as it goes in CV slang. To make sure this trucker is not a dream weaver or a sleepy driver, we needed to look at what was going on with his life on 18 wheels. After doing a comprehensive diet recall, it was determined that he spent a large majority of his time on the road eating greasy truck stop food. While driving down the interstate, he would often grab some of the fast food, fried fare variety and take it in the cab with him to eat. He skipped meals and snacks in order to get where he was going faster and sooner. Dan often ran out of strips for his glucometer and would not check his blood sugar for days at a time. He agreed to begin regular checks and keep plenty of supplies in his cab. Dan generally got no exercise, and he would drive a long distance without getting out and stretching or moving around. He did get one 30-minute walk-in per week with his wife and a few healthier meals at home when he was not traveling. In order to determine his nutritional intake, we took an inventory of the restaurants that he would make stops at while en route. We looked at truck stop and fast food menus of all kinds and helped him learn to pick healthier options whenever he made a stop. We suggested that he pack a cooler of healthy snacks to take with him on the road and also prepared a list of his favorite snacks for him to pick up to plan for the day when he would hit the road again with an A1C of less than 10. He also learned to count his carbohydrates. Additionally, since he would be home for 3 months until his A1C went down, we looked at his meal options at home to help him get back out on the road. At home, he agreed to take 20 to 30-minute walks 5 days per week along with his wife following their evening meal. We looked up cab exercise equipment for him, and he picked out some equipment that he would order for his 18-wheeler. In this way, when he makes a stop, he could go in the back of the truck and get a few minutes worth of exercise. He also agreed that he would park his truck farther away from where he is supposed to go in order to get a few more steps in. He was given a few minutes of strengthening and stretching training to do every 2 hours, as he was encouraged to make stops in order to perform these exercises, which would help him increase his circulation and boost activity. One of the biggest problems that Dan had was that he regularly consumed large amounts of sweet iced tea and sugary sodas. He agreed to stop and instead switch to healthier options such as water and diet drinks. This, along with other several changes to his diet and exercise routine, is probably the single biggest factor that brought his A1C down and allowed him to continue to hold a commercial driver's license, CDL, and work for the trucking company. He not only dropped his A1C to less than 10, he was able to get his A1C down to 8.8. His goal is to get it down to less than 7. He is aware that he will be living healthier with diabetes if his A1C is less than 7. In just a span of 3 months, the changes that Dan made in his lifestyle made a big difference, not only in his physical condition, but also allowed him to continue working in the trucking industry.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Just go on over there and drop it on Long Duck's foot.
What's happening, hot stuff?
You know, it just dawned on me that there might be some person out there who does not know what that is. Check out 16 Candles, great 80s movie. Actually, my brother calls me Ted. He actually calls me Farmer Ted. Watch the movie, you'll understand. Okay, Long Duck, what do you got to tell me today? Okay, he was listening to the episode with my nephew Jared, which is Trucker Dump 110 called Jabbering with Jared. He says, sounds like your son had a good time. Long Duck, that's my nephew. I thought I said that. Maybe I didn't make it clear. Maybe you need to open your ears a little bit. Maybe get the Q-tips out a little bit. Maybe a little bit of ear hair trimmer stuff. I don't know. Anyway, he goes on and says, talking about being smart and driving. The student that I have now knows 3 languages on top of English. He is also a journeyman electrician. He says, why does he want to be a trucker? He just wanted to have another job skill. He's only 50 and from Haiti. Well, that kind of explains it, doesn't it, Long Duck? Seems like people from other countries, immigrants, are always a bit more motivated than us Americans. You know, I guess they appreciate the opportunity they have more than they take advantage of it. He goes on and he says, on the comment on Greg's Doggy Doo. Now, I don't remember what podcast this was on. Maybe it was the same one, but this is where listener Greg wrote it, or sent in an audio comment, and he was talking about drivers letting dogs poo all over the parking lot. So he says, on the comment on Greg's Doggy Doo, it might not be doggy doo-doo, but driver doo-doo. Well, I suppose that could happen. Imagine that has happened a lot. He says, as for the knife thing, we were discussing weapons in the vehicle. He says, as for the knife thing, I keep a machete and a tactical tomahawk. They are tools, not weapons. Pry bars work as a weapon also. You know, Long Duck, pry bars, I could see getting by with a weapon on that, but a tactical tomahawk? I mean, come on. What are you, the last of the Mohegans? What's going on here, you know? A machete? Huh! You know, I thought there was a knife rule for 3-inch blades, something like that. I don't know, maybe there isn't, but I can't imagine a machete is legal. But, you know, you're kind of a rebel, so what do I expect? And by the way, he says, I might send an audio later. Well, he never did. Get on that, Long Duck. I got another one from Long Duck. This one was on Trucker Dump 112, Truckers Can't Read. He says, well, it's good to know that I'm not the only driver that can read. Now, I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I don't know why the other drivers like to drive on the right when it's clearly marked trucks on left. That's what that whole podcast was about. Idiots. He says, I've done the same thing, got on the CB asking, am I wrong here? He says, crickets. He said there would be at least one driver that would scold me on the CB. Yeah, that's usually the case. You know, you usually get one guy on there that goes, hey, you drive your truck, I'll drive mine. Well, you know, if you were driving yours legally, it'd be great. Anyway, he says, I reckon they want to be bear bait for me, and if that's the case, I want to thank them. Me too, Long Duck. Although the cops, you know, it seems like... Yeah, I've seen cops sit right off the side, see truckers in the right-hand lane when they're supposed to be in the left, and they just don't do anything. I just don't understand it. Yet they're always there for me when I'm 2 miles an hour over the speed limit. Ugh. Anyway, thanks for writing in, Long Duck. I appreciate it. Always good to hear from you. Next up, we're going to hear from David again. Last time he wrote in telling us a trick, getting about a 16-inch long stick and hanging it out the window and slapping the wiper up and down to get the ice off. Haven't tried that yet because it's not winter yet, but hey, that's a goal. Anyway, thanks for that tip, David. And he goes on. He's got more. Let's see. What's he going to say this time? Oh, boy. He says, greetings, Todd, and Merry Christmas as I write this. It was December 24th of 2015. Gee, I'm not behind at all. He says, glad you're still posting. I'm current with your podcasts, and sometimes I still go back and listen to them again. I know what you're thinking, a glutton for punishment. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, David. Wow. He goes on, anyway, I thought I would roll some comments your way. Complacency. This was on the Complacency podcast. I had two of them. One was Trucker Dump 97, a trucker's worst enemy. Trucker's worst nemesis is complacency. And the second one was Trucker Dump 104, Complacency Strikes, where it really got me. Check those out if you're interested. He goes on. Okay, I'll tell you my story. I was on my way back to pick up a palletized load of some sort of chemical, smaller jugs in boxes. It was an assorted load that even the shipper had trouble counting, but that's another story. Yes, it had to be placarded. Yes, it was Friday. And yes, I had to be there before 1600 to load. So down the road I go towards Aurora, Illinois. Now, there's a road that goes under I-88, and that's where the place was. That road had a set of train tracks running close alongside and parallel to it. Did I mention the train tracks? Yes, you did, David. So naturally, in my hurry, I drove past the entrance. Yep, know what that's all about. No problem, right? Find another factory and turn around. So that's what I did. I saw a place with a smaller truck, made a quick decision to pull in. After some fancy maneuvering, I got turned around, got up to the tracks, very close to the road, looked both ways, and then eased out the clutch. I made one shift, then stopped as suddenly as I would if ramming a brick wall. He says, do you remember the one where Wile E. Coyote is trying to make off with the sheep, and the sheepdog grabs him, wrapping his fist around his neck? Wiley tries running and his head and feet are straining to go, but his neck ain't going nowhere. And that's about what happened. Yes, the landing gear was all the way up. Good for you. Yes, my airbags were inflated. So now I'm sitting on the tracks, stuck, remembering the one where Wile E. Coyote was in the shack filling the hollow carrots with nitro while Bugs Bunny is driving the tractor and hauling the shack onto the tracks. Man, Bugs was great, wasn't he? After trying the power divider and trying to crank up the gear another inch, I quickly called the law and made sure there were no trains coming. At this point, someone came out of this facility with a large forklift and a chain, and with effort got me off the tracks. They then showed me another exit, and yes, I did get my load. I never would have guessed that because of the way the ground was sloped at the tracks, I could go in but not leave. Sort of like Hotel California, don't you think? Exactly like Hotel California. He finishes, yes, complacency can get you when you're not expecting it. God bless, keep posting. Well, I'm trying to keep posting. And thanks for the story, David. I just loved it. All right, who's next? Bryce. Yeah. Okay. Bryce wrote us last time and told the story about his evil overlord and the preacher, which was a great story. I just loved it. Anyway, he's got this audio comment for us.
Hey there, Todd McCann. This is Bryce Pennington coming at you with an audio comment from the sleeper berth on my truck, which means for the first time ever, I actually get to apologize to you for any reefer trailer sitting next to me, or air brakes going off, or horns, or all that wonderful stuff that we do find here at the truck stop. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know I found your podcast at the end of my week last week, and this week I spent every day. I listened to every episode from episode 0 all the way up through episode 112 in 1 week. And I got to tell you, that alone made this week my own personal version of Hell Week. Just kidding, man. Hey, I love the podcast and I love the blog. I think you got a lot of great content, and just want to encourage you to keep up the great work and keep the episodes coming, man. The longer, the better. So, hey, have a great week and keep the shiny side up.
Jumping Jehoshaphat, 112 episodes in 1 week. Wow, you truly are a glutton for punishment, man. Oh, man, that Hell Week, it literally had me laughing out loud. Just love that. Anyway, Bryce, I appreciate the kind words. I will try to keep posting. You know how good I am at that, though. And lastly, we are going to hear from Andrew, who is a new listener. Well, okay, wait. February 17th, 2016. I guess it's not really a new listener, is it? Well, it was at the time when he wrote this. All right, he had listened to Trucker Dump 99. What was that? Oh, 4 Ways to Be an Awesome Trucker. Now, I don't remember what I said about this, but it was funny what he had to say anyway. He says, "Hey Todd, I'm enjoying your podcast. I'm not a full-time driver, though I often do find myself in a dump truck pulling a backhoe. That's my third job. Wow." He says, "I also work in a factory that I can't stand, but the insurance is great, and I run my own landscape and lawn care business." Wow, you're a busy dude, Andrew. "All of these equal a lot of time for listening to podcasts while I work, so thank you. I just listened to Trucker Dump 99, and I'm going to suggest that if you would follow Buck and Don's advice, wearing blue jeans instead of sweats, those pesky airsoft pellets might not sting so bad." He says, "I had to get my smart-ass comment in." Yeah, of course you did, Andrew. You're a Trucker Dump listener. That's awesome. Although I don't remember what I said about the airsoft bullets, those airsoft pellets, but the only thing I can think that I would have said was that, was telling the story about when I let my nephew shoot me in the chest, and I didn't have a shirt on at that point, so sweats wouldn't have helped me at all. Anyway, he goes on and says, "I also listened to Trucker Dump 33, which was about the manual versus automatic transmissions. He said, I've drove a few 10-speed trucks, and the first time I got in an auto, I looked like an ass as I came to a red light, stomping the floor where the clutch should be, and nearly spilling my coffee, instinctively reaching for the shifter." Anyway, thanks for breaking the monotony. Glad to help. "And if I get a chance, I'll relay some of Dad's stories of dealing with drivers for 20-plus years at Heilig Myers and now Stylecrest Distribution." Well, I love to hear trucker stories, Andrew, so send them in. And that automatic transmission thing, anybody who has ever driven an automatic does this. They're just not used to it. They ram their foot to the floor when they come up to a stoplight. Makes them feel like an idiot, even though nobody really knows this, but we feel like it. Anyway, I would just love to hear some of those stories from your dad. That'd be great. Have him write them up. Even better, have him send in the little audio clips in 3 minutes or less. And as for that little sweatpants comment thing, well, you know what? Those guys tease me about it all the time. It's kind of lulled down a little bit, but that's all right. I love it. Just have a lot of fun with Buck and Don over there teasing me about my sweatpants. And it's summer, so I'm not wearing them, so nobody can tease me. And he finishes up by writing me back. He says, "It's all good, Betty. I was really hoping that when I saw an email from you, there might also be a new episode. But oh well, I'm sure Netflix has thwarted your plans again." Netflix always thwarts my plan, Andrew. Oh, he says, "I will see what I can do about sending you a voice recording or two." You do that, Andrew. I love them. He goes on, "However, I do not share your enthusiasm for the iPhone. I hate this POS." What? How can you hate an iPhone? That's just uncool. Oh well, I won't hold it against you. He says, "If you listen to all episodes of the trucking podcast," I forget which episode it was, "but I'm the lawn guy that got covered in human feces while mowing." Oh, dude, that's nasty. Oh, I talk about that a little bit in my book, chapter 13, I think it was, called The Yuck Factor. It had a lot to do with that kind of stuff. Anyway, he says, "Keep it between the mayo and the mustard, my friend." And I have no idea what that means, Andrew. So with that, we'll finish up feedback. Once again, I'd like to thank Liz for writing the article on diabetes, and I'd like to thank Holly for recording it so excellently. Thank you also to Andrew, to Bryce, to David, and of course, Long Duck.
What's happening, hot stuff?
There's one last thing I wanted to remind you about before we sign off here. If you remember right, I was asking for feedback on a couple of different subjects. One was I'm going to be doing an exercise podcast coming up, explaining how it's done, how easy it is to do it out here on the road, stuff like that, just basic stuff. But if you got any questions about it, if you're interested in starting working out on the road or something like that, I'm no expert by any means, and I'm not consistent by any means, but please send in those questions or your comments, truckerdump@gmail.com, and I'll include those in that podcast. Also, Bryce motivated me to ask for stories of your own evil overlord. If you've got a spouse or a partner who is just slightly evil and likes to pull pranks, likes to, joke around in a evil way, send in those comments. Send them in text or audio, however you want to do it. Just keep those audio comments down around under 3 minutes if you can. 2's better. 3 is fine, though. Anyway, get those in, truckerdump@gmail.com. And now we're going to sign off with that Walking on Einstein music that you can download from abouttruckdriving.com in the free stuff section. Take it away, boys. Yeah, we be jamming. So hey, are you a diabetic trucker? What's your story? Write in and share your thoughts on driving a truck with diabetes. Or better yet, send an audio comment to truckerdump@gmail.com. You can also find all the links to today's show at abouttruckdriving.com, episode 116. I'm a Facebook hater, but I do the Twitters as @ToddMcCann. That's 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. If you like the Trucker Dump podcast, please pass the word along on your favorite social media sites. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, please get on that so you don't miss an episode. As always, thanks for listening. So until next time, drive safe, stay out of my way.